Hi, my name is Mark Belcerzak, and this is my research presentation, Are Video Games Really to Blame for Our Violent Behavior? My answer to that is no. They do not cause violent behavior, and I believe that the research I have done can help me show you why. First, a little bit about why I chose this topic. I've been a video game player since I was about 7 years old, and I still play them today. I have 6 children ranging in ages from 7 to 20, and all of them also enjoy playing video games. And most importantly, I'm tired of seeing people blaming outside sources, whether it's a movie they saw or a game that they played, for their own actions and choices. Alright, so first I wanted to take a look at where these claims that video games cause violence come from. I found a couple of quotes in an article by Eric Kane titled "Video Games Do Not Cause Violence." The first being a quote by Donald Trump, and the second from the Vice President of the NRA. I would like to point out that this quote from Donald Trump was prior to him being elected president, when he was simply a celebrity. And as we all know, celebrities always know what they're talking about. And the quote from the NRA, well, who better to want to direct the blame away from talking about gun violence? Let's direct it to video games instead. I have also listed several shootings that have seemed to be mentioned in various articles that I have read while researching. It always seems to be that after a shooting happens, people need something to blame, and video games get thrown into the conversation. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, well, people wouldn't just point the finger at video games for no reason. Well, you're wrong, and here are some of the other medias that have been blamed for human behavior in the past. Game designer Greg Costackian points out in his article, "The problem with video game violence is exaggerated," that each of these have been blamed one time or another, going all the way back to the 1930s. I wanted to share with you some important facts and statistics that I've read. Christopher Ferguson points out in his article, "Video Games, the Latest Scapegoat for Violent Behavior," that 98.7% of children play video games. Violent crime rates in the United States have significantly decreased since 1994, and Eric Kane says in his article that violent youth offenders have decreased by almost half from 1994 to 2010, and video game sales have doubled since 1996. These facts beg the question: if video games cause violence, then why are violent crimes decreasing while video gaming is increasing? One would think that if the two really have anything to do with one another, then we would see an increase in violent crimes while the sales of video games increased, instead of seeing just the opposite. So let's take a look at some of the studies that have been done. According to Henry Jenkins, there have been at least 300 studies done on media violence, and the majority of that have either been inconclusive or have had their methodology called into question. Recently, in 2018, the University of York conducted their own study with over 3,000 participants, which is significantly more than previous studies. The results were published in an article, "No Evidence to Support Link Between Video Games and Violence." I'm sure you can figure out with the name of that what the results were. And lastly, Christopher Ferguson, an assistant professor of behavioral science and criminal justice, conducted his own meta-analysis, and both his study and a similar one by Michigan State University both showed that there is no evidence of a relationship between video games and aggression. So why do we hear about so many studies that claim video games cause violence? Well, according to Cornell University's Broaden-Brenner Center for Translational Research, the APA has found that studies shown to connect video games and violence are more likely to be published than those that do not. Christopher Ferguson says that the majority of the studies we hear about are actually faulty studies because of biases, poor means of measuring aggression, and what he refers to as the classic error. He explains this error in his article by saying, "Using video game playing habits to predict school shootings is about as useful as noting that most or all school shooters were in the habit of wearing sneakers and concluding the sneakers must be responsible for violence. One article that I loved was written by Catherine Walker and Micah Izzet, titled, "Video games should be celebrated and improved, rather than prohibited." They do an excellent job discussing how video games enhance all these skills that are actually very important and beneficial to real life. It is rare to find a game that people actually enjoy playing that doesn't involve using critical thinking and problem-solving skills. When you're playing a game, you are met by challenges or quests that you need to complete, and often even experienced gamers don't get it in the first try. You will try and fail, try again, and fail again until you actually sit back and come up with a strategy to win. Other studies have been done to show that these games can actually enhance your vision, ability to see contrast, and improve your visual recall. Lastly is socialization. It is a common misconception that video games are isolating. However, especially with the growing popularity of online gaming, this is completely untrue. Speaking from personal experience, I have several friends that I chat with on a regular basis from all over the world that I met through online gaming. Many online games require you to work together with other players to complete goals in the game. The statistics I have provided here are from Henry Jenkins' article. So what should we really be looking at when talking about violent crimes? Well, according to Henry Jenkins' article, video games do not create school shooters. The Surgeon General says that the strongest risk factors for those to commit school shootings are mental stability and the quality of their home life. According to Eric Kane, more than half of mass shooters have an underlying mental health issue. I'm thinking that we're wasting our time and energy putting the blame where it doesn't belong. We should be focusing on these known risk factors and how we as a country can better address them. I would like to conclude my presentation with a quote from Christopher Ferguson's article because I do not feel I could say it much better. I do not know how it came to be that we, as a culture, ceased holding people's responsibility for their actions. When a man or woman picks up a weapon and premeditates the end of another human life, it is not because he or she was programmed by a video game, but because that individual made a choice, not to play a game, but to kill. I couldn't agree with this quote more. We need to stop looking to put the blame on everything else just because it's easier or satisfies our need for an explanation. I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and hopefully I was able to, at the very least, make you stop and think for a few moments. Thank you.